first thing that I want to go over is in the spirit of addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion here in the United States of America. Let's talk about the big discussion that was happening from a financial perspective of all of the things that y'all could have talked about yesterday. We're going to talk about the big discussion that was happening from a financial perspective about the racial wealth gap in America. And so somebody sent me this and they thought that it would be interesting to hear my perspective on and my reaction to it. And it's basically a CBS News conversation about racial wealth gap and disparity inside of the United States of America. Let's spend 10 minutes on this and then let's move over into the real meat and potatoes.
Today is Juneteenth, which commemorates the end of slavery in Texas and other states which seceded from the Union. But as you may already know, it was on this day in
Let me also say this about Boeing. All right. Y'all do know that Boeing makes more than just planes, right? Did y'all know that Boeing also makes military equipment? Did y'all know that Boeing makes a lot of the things that you don't even know that they're a part of? Boeing is more than just an airplane company. Y'all do know that, right? So when we were sitting there talking about, and I'm gonna get to this racial diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff, y'all need to research these companies a little bit deeper. I research them because I'm trying to understand where the money is at. I'm trying to understand who's tied to who, where to invest the money, and how do we continue to incentivize ourselves to take advantage of what's happening from a capitalistic perspective here in the United States of America. So don't think that this political posturing that's happening with the Senate is all face value what they have in a conversation. That's why I look at them with a side eye because I know how incentivized the federal government is to participate in what's going on with Boeing and Spirit Aero Systems. Let's get to this diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation, y'all.
1865 that Union General Gordon Granger brought the news to enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Later that same year, slavery was formally abolished in the United States with the ratification of the 13th Amendment. Hardships, however, continue to hurt Black Americans all these years later, including what is a persistent wealth gap. According to a Federal Reserve Bank survey, the average level of wealth in a Black household was just over $200,000, while a white household averaged over $1.3 million.
So let's stop here for a second. It says the average level of wealth in a Black versus white households. Okay, the average level of wealth, and I'm assuming that they're just evaluating this based off of net worth. Now, y'all also got to know, because I know that y'all like to run in the Victim Olympics, y'all also got to know that a lot of this wealth is tied up in your home, right? So when they evaluate this, they're not evaluating it based off of how much money you make. They're evaluating it based off how much money you keep, right? So they're saying that the average level of wealth in a Black household, that means everybody in there, all combined, assets included, is $211,000 and 600. The average level of wealth in white households is 1.3 and a half million dollars. All right. So that's according to the Federal Reserve Bank survey. Federal Reserve Bank survey. All right. Let's continue before I give my opinion on this.
A fresh new book, 15 cents on the dollar, How Americans Made the Black-White Wealth Gap, examines the massive wealth disparity that has been virtually stuck for generations and details the structural economic barriers that Black Americans are still facing today. The co-authors of this book, Louise Story and Ebony Reed, join me now here in Studio 57 to dive into what you have both been telling me is a topic that no book exists on as far as the history and where it is, where things stand to the present day. That to me is remarkable. But first, talk to me about you both meeting at the Wall Street Journal during the pandemic and going through experiences that made you realize a book like this is even necessary.
Sure. Thank you for having us. In the summer of 2020, like many people in our country, Louise and I, we were trapped in our homes that first summer. We couldn't go anywhere. And so we started having conversations in that pandemic summer about injustices and equities we had seen in our lifetimes and workplaces. We were reading books together. And we found that there was no book that had reported on the black-white wealth gap from history to current time with real contemporary people that are living today.
Louise, why was that? Why is that?
Let me say this. Let me add this in here. Do you notice how every conversation, when it comes to money, when it comes to race, when it comes to all of that, and I'm a person that rock with people based off of your character, not your skin. It always comes back down to black versus black versus white. All right. Black, how dark your skin is versus how white your skin is. If you start to deep dive into the numbers, like if you really start to deep dive into the numbers, you will realize that the average household income, or the houses that actually hold the majority of the wealth, are in the United States of America, aren't even white people. It's Asian and Indian. But in order to continue to push this narrative, they want it to be black versus white. It's not even white, black. White people are behind, even though they're the majority of the population inside of the United States of America. And most of it is a melting pot anyway. But it's Asian households and Indian households who actually hold the majority of the assets and then generate the majority of the wealth. So if you want to talk about a gap, why aren't we evaluating ourselves based off of a completely different culture that's not even at the top of the food chain? Why is it always only white versus black? If I'm going to gauge myself and I'm trying to glean the best practices in order to make the best decisions that's on behalf of my family, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep from somebody that's successful, I'm not even looking at white people. Respectfully, I'm not even looking at white people. I'm looking at a completely different group of people and saying, "Hi, they doing it," instead of these people over here. But let's continue.
Well, wealth has not actually been a big focus of discussions, and it's not very well understood in our country. When you talk a
I
lot
don't even think that the Asians and the Indians that are making all of the money even want you to know. They just be like, let them keep putting it on white people. Let them keep putting it on white people.
about equality
And
and
white people feel so guilty that they out here protesting with y'all, while the overwhelming majority of the people that's on social services is homeless and is on food stamps is white people.
even economic equality, people focus more on income. I'm sure you've heard a lot about the pay gaps.
Right.
And that's partly because, companies can do something about income gaps, right? There's been a lot of move for pay equity, and also because that's something that started with the male and female pay gap. So the pay gap and income gap has dominated a lot of conversations. But, income is different from wealth.
Right.
Wealth is what you own minus what you owe. And even two people working today at most places who are black and white making the same income would, statistically speaking, have very different levels of wealth. So we thought it was essential that we put some focus on this.
And for many of us, wealth is inherited. The income you make now is something you can do about. Some of this you can't really control. And you have both tracked the lives of 7 Black Americans throughout the book to help personify and give examples for this massive wealth disparity. Give us an example of one person you profiled and what stood out to the both of you.
Sure. Among the 7 people, I want to say is Ambassador Andrew Young, civil rights leader. Many people remember him as being the former mayor of Atlanta.
Right.
We have Michael Render, known as Killer Mike, the rapper. We also have a television executive and some people that others will encounter for the first time as they read the book. One family story that really sticks out to me is a young leader. He was formerly the head of the Georgia NAACP. He was trying to move his life forward economically while also fighting for civil rights, and he had more than $100,000 in student loan debt. And so the debt of student loans is a very crushing thing for many Black families.
That is a choice. That is literally a choice. Listen, for a lot of women that wind up saying, well, you know what, we want to figure out what it is that we got going on, inside of the this is literally a choice. Look at this. Let me show you something. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys really quickly. All right. Asian households. Now we know that the average household income in the United States of America is somewhere between $67,000 and $70,000 a year. That's on average across the United States of America. It's skewed a little bit differently because the people at the top, they control so much wealth that it basically skews the number up from the people that's at the bottom and the people in the middle, right? But I'll give you an example, right? If you look at this, right, and this is according to the 2022 American Community Survey, following the basically the census, um, Asian Americans detailed by race and ethnicities, um, population 4 million people. Median household income is 1.5 or $152,000 Indian. Median household income is $152,000 a year. When you combine them with other races alone or combine with other races, it goes down to 147,000. So let's just focus on this right here. Let's focus on this. Only on this side. Taiwanese, 122. Filipino, 109. Pakistani, 106. Chinese, 100,000. Sri Lankan, Nepalese, Korean, Japanese, Indonesian, Cambodian, Thai, Vietnamese, Bangladeshi, Laotian, and Burmese, they all are getting to the bag. Well, now, if I'm trying to understand the cultural norms as far as how it is that I'm supposed to be moving and being successful, why would I be sitting there evaluating what white people are doing? I've seen over in one of the most wealthiest cities in Michigan, in the wealthiest county, them buying and building up entire neighborhoods, entire whole neighborhoods. Homes is beautiful, and when you drive down the street in the summertime and you see all of the kids playing, is nothing but Indians. Nothing but Indians all across the board. Two-parent households, combining wealth. The woman is going out working, the man is going out working. She's a director at some company in the technology division. He's out there grinding and he's getting it, and he's a vice president of this over here, and he's taking care of business. Keeping what we sitting here having arguments about whether or not you should combine resources and whether or not the woman want to retire, and white women and black women are doing it. Both of them are having this conversation on social media. Meanwhile, they combining their resources, their finances, and they running up the bag. We sitting here trying to convince women in American culture, in our culture, Western society, about how important it is to be happy instead of keeping a home together, or keeping a family together, so that you can A, combine resources, and B, doing the thing that's in the best interest of the children. Making sure they going to community colleges and then leveraging their job to pay for their university studies, while we sitting here taking on student loan debt and then going into fields that's not even STEM related. It's so many other conversations that we should be having when it comes to what you need to do from a financial perspective. But we sitting here talking about comparing it to white people like this is 1873. This ain't 1873. This is 2024, big dog. Let me go ahead and let them run in the Victim Olympics. I'm gonna play a little bit more and then we're gonna move over. We're gonna move over.
Many Black students who graduate from college carry a lot of student debt.
I'm glad you used that word crushing, because it's difficult for anyone who carries that debt, but particularly if you don't have those lifelines at home that you've inherited. One thing you...
Look, let me look at this before we play. Shutter Speed Gaming says, Anton, you clearly don't know your history, your Black American history. If you're denying the wealth gap between Black Americans and white Americans, listen, I don't give a flying F about you running in the Victim Olympics and wanting to use racial disparities in order to justify your diversity, equity, and inclusion program that you probably don't even deserve to be in the first place. Listen, affirmative action, dead. NAACP, we don't even know what they do except for invite buying the dinners in order to try to sell you for your vote. The minute that you break out from this stupid mindset from being race related is the minute that you're going to start being incredibly successful, and then you can change the trajectory of your family. If you want to run in the Victim Olympics, cool. I'm gonna be over here looking at the ocean from where I am, continuing to build these houses, having zero debt, taking care of my family, and ensuring my daughter is going to go in a completely different direction instead of leaning on running in the victim Olympics to make herself feel good about her lot in life. Nobody cares about your feelings. Nobody cares about how you feel. The only thing that we care about is results. We results based. And the people that are results based, they look at their lot in life, they make some adjustments, they do what they have to do, and they know that they can beat you because you're going to continue to run in the victim Olympics.
Both take great effort to do is not to take any position of a government policy or perspective, but you do look at how government programs have at least exacerbated the problem or in some ways helped ameliorate it. Louise, what jumps out at you as far as government programs that are partly to blame and can do something about it?
You know, there's examples through all of history and even through today of government programs that have.
Listen, I don't want to hear this nonsense. Let me just say this last thing, and then we're gonna move over into the next thing, right? Because I want to get to this reaction video. Um, I appreciate it. Thank you for all of the love and the support. I'm gonna have to read the super chats because I'm actually live streaming from my iPhone right now. Um, before we can continue to blame white people for where we are in life today, because most of y'all ain't ever seen no racism in your lifetime. That's just a fact. Let me give y'all some tips, all right, to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Stop wearing purple label before your assets can provide for you to be able to do so. Don't buy Dodge Chargers and Challengers. Stay away from Hellcats and Scat Packs. Stay out of Gucci. Stay out of the strip club and don't throw money in the air. Don't take on any more student loans and go to community college. Make sure that you keep your family together. Don't have children out of wedlock. Stop taking out payday loans. Stop scamming and having the credit card companies and Navy Federal flagging people based off of the fact that they out here frauding and scheming. Don't take out any more PPP loans. You should marry before you carry. When you go to community college, go ahead and go into a STEM field, right? Stop going into business, underwater basket weaving, and African American studies. Um, do we need to continue? Because there's some very basic things that you can do. Very basic things. Listen, stop getting fired from your job. I'm gonna go even lower. I'm not even gonna go to the basics. You know, when you go to college and before they actually start having you go into your curriculum, you got to take remedial classes. So you basically paying for things that you should have learned in high school in order to get you up to the top. Let's go to that. All right. We're gonna go remedial. We're gonna go uh English 0101. All right. Instead of English 101, we're gonna go English 0101. Stop smoking weed, stop drinking, stop showing up late to your job. Don't do drugs before you get drug tested. Cut your hair, be presentable, brush your teeth, iron your shirt. Um, Make sure that you actually put together a resume instead of saying, "Hey, y'all hiring? Hey, can I get a job?" Stop looking to work from home and finesse and actually go in and make yourself presentable, work your way up. Don't get mad and quit your job just because somebody held you accountable and then say it's because I'm black. The very basics, and you will be successful in life. And I'll give you one more. I'll give you a couple more. You can be more than a rapper or a ball player. What? Maybe get your children in a golf program or tennis. Maybe have them go to debate class so that they can learn how to communicate effectively and not say and duh for every sentence. So that when they come to me and they say, "Hey man, you black, you need to be hooking me up with a job, man." Y'all won't be embarrassing me inside of the interview process. Oh, trust me. I've gone the length trying to open up my diversity, equity, and inclusion within myself to hire y'all in some of these positions in corporate America, only to be disappointed when y'all showing up smelling like trees and your shirt not tucked in. Learn to tuck your shirt in and pull your pants up when you decide to come to the interview. And stop just saying, "Well, I don't need no degree. I could do the job. Y'all discriminating against me." Guess what? And when you start making the money, don't spend it on a Nissan Altima. and stop making bad decisions when it comes to credit cards. And you can be successful too. Right on. Oh man, Anton, he's so right. He against the black community. No, I'm against you continuing to make excuses as to why you can't be successful. But we was redlined against in the 1950s. Man, grow up. Grow up. Take care of your family and get off government assistance. Keep on messing up all of my tax dollars. Nah, I ain't want to do that while I was over here on vacation. But sometimes we gotta bring y'all back to reality because I know that y'all think that just because white people feel guilty about protesting with y'all and they feel like, oh my God, I don't like the wealth gap. And stop being sassy.